We're doing this on YouTube as well. So if you could please utilize the microphone so that it can get captured for the recording. Like I said, if you have any questions, please use the mic. If it's an in-depth kind of question, conversation, I'd be more than happy to entertain that at the end of the presentation. So we'll go ahead and get to it. So what we're going to go over, the objectives of today, we're going to go over the application review, and we're going to go over just the clear communications that we're going to need for such a congested summer season that we're going to have this coming year. The enhanced safety, that is just the out of the norm, you know, taking care of each other, other things that we can do to help with the safety side, things that we can do to help with congestion. And then we'll go over the traffic flows and stuff to make traffic flow a little bit more easier for everybody getting in and out of the plaza. So we're going to go over what I'd like to do is go over the permits and forms. We're going to go over the outfitter permit, the plaza sales permit, the load and unload, which is a new permit that we have this year, and then also the auction and bid procedures. If you give me just 1 second, let me go ahead and change the screen, and we'll go over the permits. And so the first one we'll go over is the plaza vendor space permit. And just remember that these permits and space available here is just for selling or outfitting your tours here. It has nothing to do with anything else. It has nothing to do with taxes and nothing to do with anything else other than renting a space here at Centennial Hall or at the Crescent Harbor side over there. Now, when we go through these, the plaza vendor space permit is almost identical to the outfitter permit. The way they were written that way so that they're less confusing. And also there's just a few different changes. Of course, the minimum bid is going to be different. The spaces, the number of spaces is going to be different, just little things like that. And we'll go ahead and go over that. Yes. Yeah, at this time, this point in time, no, they're not eligible. No, ma'am. They're all just for tour excursions, outfitting and that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. And so we're going to go over vendor plaza. Vendor plaza space. And what this is this is the permit to be able to sell an excursion or occupy a space in the front and one of the corners of the building. At first, it was going to be 10 squares. Now they opened it up to 15 squares. So we're going to go with that. And we just go quickly over the permit. Some of the key points in this, you can read along if you'd like, and there's actually permits in the back. If you could just please get what you think you're going to need. If you're going to be selling out front with vehicles, then you would need the vendor permit as well as the load unload. If you're only going to be tour operating or tour outfitting in the back, depending on what kind of other vehicles you may need, you're going to need the outfitter permit as well as the load unload. But all that stuff is in the back. Some of the key points to this is the application must be signed by the business owner. It doesn't mean that that's the person that has to bring in the permit, but the permit ultimately has to be signed by the business owner. As it states, it says the permit will be legally, it says a person who has, or upon issuance of this permit will have legal authority to act in accordance with this permit. That means that whoever's going to be bringing in the permit has to be part of the permit. It just can't be anybody off the street bringing it in. They have to be part of the permit, part of the business, and they have to have been given that legal authority, named as a legal authority. And further down into the permit, you'll understand where that piece lies. As you keep going down, the applications are here. After today's meeting, I'm going to go ahead and put all the applications and all of the attachments online. So you'll be able to find them on the Centennial Hall site. If you go to City and Borough Sitka, you can go to Centennial Hall, and there will be a link to all of the permits there. The only reason we didn't do that a little bit sooner was just because I didn't know what was out there as far as other permits. And I wanted to make sure that we kind of had a chance to flush all the old ones out so that everybody had a fresh start with all the new ones now. So that was one of the big reasons, but they'll be available online probably tomorrow, if not early Monday, hopefully tomorrow. Continuing on, so the application period, the applications were made available on January 19th. And the application period will go all the way until February 10th. That gives everybody, now it gives everybody almost 3 weeks, but that'll still give us enough time to be able to get the auction going and all that stuff as early as we could. We wish we could have gave a little bit more time for the application period, but we're trying to work with all the vendors and trying to get that out there as quickly as we can so that everybody can start planning and stuff for this coming season. So it's going to be on February 10th is the deadline. And continuing on into the permit, let's go into the permit is going to be, make sure that there's a bunch of different information that you're going to need to be filling out on the permit. A couple of those is you want to make sure you have a current phone number. You're going to have to add in there all the people that are going to be responsible for this permit. Like I said, there is a space for that. The owner as well will have his name and signature, but other people that will be acting for this permit. A description of the commercial operation. There's little spots for that as well on there. Current addresses and cell phone numbers of people that will be named on the permit. A copy of the driver's license, and basically this is all kind of the same stuff that you guys were doing in previous years. The only difference is now it's kind of all compact. It's all coming out of Centennial Hall. You don't have to go to the police department for this, and the permits and stuff are coming out of Centennial Hall, and it made it a little bit easier for that. So what I'd like to do is on these permits, we get into the bid process and procedure. I'm going to get into that more in depth with the PowerPoint presentation. But for the spaces out front, the city is offering 15 spaces. Again, the deadline for those will be March 10th. I'm sorry, February 10th, sorry. Yes. If you give me a second, when we go back to the PowerPoint, we're going to cover where the spaces are. We're going to cover all the bidding procedures and all that, the whole process there. So I will be getting to that. So as we continue on, spaces will be assigned to successful bidders. That means if you win a bid, and we're going to go over this again as well, if you win a bid, you will have the opportunity to pick the number and then the number space that you want, as well as pick the term. So right now, again, we're getting into the whole bid thing, but right now there's 15 spaces. It's going to start in a staggering way. That means that 5 spaces are going to be offered at 3-year terms. 5 spaces will be offered at 2-year terms, and 5 spaces will be offered at 1-year term. And next year, when that 1-year term is complete, that space will go up for auction one more time, but they're going to all eventually be 3-year terms. That's the way it's kind of planned out this year, and the way it's going to be staggered during the auction. So when we get into, as we continue, it's a week after the deadline for the last chance to turn in your applications. And along with that, February 10th is the last opportunity, is the deadline. It is written in there as well that if you turn your application in and it's incomplete, we have at least 48 hours to get back to you guys with, this is what you need to complete with, this is what you need to get, that kind of thing. More than likely, we can kind of remedy it on the spot as far as the information wise, but there is a 48-hour grace period for the city to be able to act on that and get you guys back on the right path. Just wanted to throw that out there. So this next portion is all about the auction. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and bypass those pieces there. And then also with part of the application is a broker certificate for showing that the city is named. And it has to be $1 million, and it's all written out there. So if you take that to your insurance agent, they have an idea of what you're talking about and what you need. So, and then as we continue from there, I am actually going over this kind of fast. These are kind of the same kind of requirements that you had last year. It's just that it's all on the same permit this year. So like I said, if you have any questions along the way, please ask. And again, if you have any questions so that people else that aren't here that want to hear, if you can please use the microphone for your question. Eligibility requirements, and it kind of goes on to the stuff that we had talked about before. Hold the Alaska business license, maintain a place of business under the same name in Alaska. It has to be in the boundaries of CBS. Maintain a year-round place of business and mailing address in CBS, and must have a single individual by physical address, mailing address, a phone number. That means you have to, on your permit, you have to have named somebody that is here local that we can get a hold of to act in your stead. As we continue on, there is a form that we printed in the back. It's not part of your packet, but it is printed back there. It is a form that you can take to the finance department. And part of the application process this year is verifying that you have no debt with the city. And so there's a form back there you can pick up, take down there, and basically you fill out your name and stuff, and they're going to authorize, or not authorize, but verify that you have no debt with the city, and that is part of the application process this year. Let's continue on. And then as you keep going into the permit, this is all just the information that you're going to be needing to add on to the permit or to the application. And it's all of the different things that we had talked about. Now this one here is for the vendor sales out front, but it still has areas where you're going to need to add your cars and stuff, and you're going to have to do the same thing for the load unload permit as well. No, at this time we are not doing boats. Yeah. And so let me reiterate, the permits and why we're here is to sell and pick up and drop off here on Centennial Hall. That would be a harbor thing. No. As of right now, for these permits and what we're talking about today, we're not talking about boats. We're talking about spaces out front or vehicles that we're using at the curb to pick up and drop off stuff. Okay. So below that is a checklist. And it's really as simple as that. I mean, there's a little checklist. Go down each one, driver's license, business, copy of the business, your business license, verification with the debt, and that's for accounts payable. They can work with you there. Criminal history report from the state of Alaska. Now, my understanding is that the Alaska State Troopers are the one doing it, and they do it out of the Trooper Academy. So you would need to go there and verify what their times and an opportunity for you to get there and get that filled out by them. Yes. Criminal history, yes. Okay. Principal owner, whoever's doing the permit. We're gonna need to have provided a printout. There has to be whoever's filling out the permit is one that I'm gonna need. Yep. Continuing on, permit fees. Now, when we go over the whole bidding process and stuff, the way it's kind of written out is the fees for the bid amount is going to be due every year by March 1st. And we'll get into it a little bit more when we go into the bidding procedures and we go through that. And then the last thing on the checklist is a certificate of insurance. I just need a copy of that as well to go along with your application. Continuing on from there, basically it's an applicant acknowledgement, and basically it's just stating that you are agreeing to the terms and conditions of this permit, and that you are signing that you're understanding that you're going to be indemnifying and defend, hold harmless CBS. And basically, that's just standard stuff that permit stuff. And just remember though that this year permits or a permit may not be assigned or transferred. And what that means is if during the permit process you win a bid for space number 1, you cannot sublease that space. That is your space, and that's going to be your space for the whole year. Right now, no. Right now, it's going to be remain empty. So that's the applicant acknowledgement, which is going to need a signature from the applicant, and then it goes on down to basically a yes or no from me granting the permit. And there's certain spaces, there's certain stuff up here that'll be filled in, space number assigned, the plaza space permit is a little bit different than the spaces out back. These ones are valid from April 1st through December 31st. Now there's a different time frame for the ones out back, just because it is it is a public launch, boat launch. And so we're trying to manage that side of it as well back there. So, and then it kind of goes on with just having an understanding, making sure you understand, about the signs going back there. And this is all other stuff that we can talk about on the side as far as signage and that kind of stuff. But it's going to be the exact same as last year, 3x4, one sign, that kind of thing. So that hasn't changed. And this part here will be signed by myself. And basically it's granting you the permit. We're going to go ahead and go on to the load unload. Does anybody have any questions about the vendor permit side? And again, we'll be going over the bid process as well. Yes. No, the permit holder will need that. Yes. Any other questions? Okay. So we'll go ahead and go on to, we'll go to the next one. Vehicle loading and unloading. And this is new this year. And the first portion of the permit is exactly the same as all the other permits. It's just stating that who can and will be allowed a permit, and that all the permits can be located at my office, as well as, like I said, online after this meeting. Again, with these ones, there's a little bit of a difference with this one, and that is if you are turning in a vendor space or even a outfitter space, this will need to be turned in by March 10th or February 10th as well. So, and we'll have to have payment for this on that time as well, on that date as well. By March, excuse me, yes, by March 1st. But these applications will be turned in at the same time as the deadline for the vendor space. And yes, again, the deadline for the payment is March 1st. February. Yeah. Yes. So what this one really describes, a lot of the beginning of it is the same as all the other ones. It describes the what you need to submit for the application, and then it gets into the fees and insurance. And this is the new piece of this. Every vehicle that is going to be utilized for transportation, or even that for transportation here on Harrigan Centennial Hall or Crescent Harbor parking lots or in the front for dropping off, picking up, will be required to have a permit. Each vehicle will be required to have a permit. And right now we are in the process of printing stickers for the bottom right-hand corner of your vehicle and bottom left-hand corner of your vehicle. And so when you pay the fee, we will go ahead and issue out the stickers for your vehicles. The way it reads is under 7 passengers is $250 per vehicle. 7 to 15, it's $500. 16 to 29, it's $750. 30 or more, it's $1,000. That's what the permit says. If you decide to have any of those vehicles as a 100% electric vehicle, or an electric vehicle, we'll go ahead and waive the fee for that vehicle as part of the permit. And again, the same, yes. Yes. The permit works for both locations, yes. Yep. So, and then it gets down to what we have already talked about, the insurance part of it, naming CBS additionally insured $1 million combined single limit for bodily injury and property damage, the same as the other permits. As we continue on with this permit, same kind of requirements as far as debt, as far as criminal history, all that stuff needs to get turned in. Then we get down to the application or the applicant information. And then it has the same kind of same information on top as the other permits, but then it gets down to the vehicles, and what you need there is you need all the vehicle information for each vehicle that you're going to be using for your operation. As we go down, there is a checklist as well for this permit, just like the other permits. Driver's license, copy driver's license, Alaska business license, verification of no overdue debt, criminal history. And then also it also has an acknowledgement, applicant acknowledgement page for you to sign. I'm acknowledging what you're getting the permit for and adhering to, and making sure that all the information is correct. And then you also have your, again, a granted or denied page from myself. But Normally, if you have everything in and the permit or all the paperwork and application is complete, I will go ahead and finish this page for you. And then it has kind of the same kind of information as the other one. But this one is different. Like I said, in the way that the time frame is different. April 1st through October 15th is for the loading, unloading permit. And that goes the same for the outfitter permit out back. Its permit is not renewable. That means that, yes. Yeah, and we'll adjust. We'll adjust. Yeah, yes. So this is a loading, unloading permit. Yes, the two different things. So because what we have is what we don't want is people lining up and putting signs all along the whole sidewalk as they're trying to pick people up. It's something different, two different permits. The vendor permit, vendor sales permit is its own thing. Loading, unloading is its own permit. Yes. 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 Question? No. So this part of it is basically a granted, a denied, circle one. This is going to be something I'll be filling out at the very end. No signs are permitted within the designated areas, and those are the designated load and unload areas, and we'll go over that as we continue on with the slideshow. These are the permits, and again, you'll be issued a permit, a sticker that you'll be at the passenger side bottom corner. Any other questions with the load unload? Okay. I don't think, unless somebody wants me to go through the outfitter one in back, the only difference between that permit and the other one is that there's 5 spaces and the bidding starts at 5,000 for those. So that's kind of the only difference between the permits. It will be, yes, as well as YouTube. This is being recorded for YouTube right now as well. And you'll be able to log on to the city site and go to their YouTube part of it. Not at this time, no. But you have to have everything else, registration, all that stuff in the application. Continuing on with the slideshow. Okay, let's get into, we went over the permits. Open outcry procedures. So this is kind of the way it's going to run. This is totally new for us. We actually don't do open outcry all that often here in the city anyways, but we're gonna go ahead and do it. We got an independent auctioneer from down south. He'll be coming in and running the auction. I wrote this out as 15 designated spaces, 5 outfitter spaces. They're going to do the plaza sales first, and then they're going to do the outfitters second. And the way it's going to work is that once you turn in your application and it is ready to go, I will make sure that I annotate that on a list. And before the auction starts, stop by the office or by the front. We're going to have that. Actually, we're going to have it in here. And I will give you a paddle. We're going to go ahead and number the paddles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many people are here. And on that list, you'll have your name as whatever number you are. If you want to bid, just hold the paddle up with your number, and then they'll say that number. The way it's going to work is this. Let's just say for out front, 15 spaces. The way the auctioneer is going to work it is the first bid is up for bid, or the first bid is going to go. And basically what you're bidding on is first choice. So he's going to start with the bid. Minimum bid for out front is 2,500. Minimum bid for out back is 5,000. So he's going to start with 2,500. Now understand that there is 5 for each term. There's 5 for 3-year, 5 for 2-year, 5 for 1 year. So keep that in mind when you're bidding. If you're bidding thinking that you want a 3-year, just remember that that's going to be whatever the bid is times 3. On March 1st, though, you're only going to be obligated that first year. But you want to make sure that you get that second year in before March 1st of the following year to continue on. If you don't get it in by March 1st of the following year, if you have a more than 1-year term, that square is going to be forfeited. So just keep that in mind. So the way it's going to go is he's going to go ahead and do the bid for the first spot. And the winning bid will say, you, sir or ma'am, you won the bid, come on up. And what they're going to do is you're going to come up, you're going to pick your spot, pick your number, and also pick your term. And once those 2 things are chosen, we're going to go and take those off the list. And so the next bid up is going to be for the next choice. And we're going to continue on until 15 spaces are taken, or until the last space is bid on. So if the first 5 people come up for a 3-year term, or a 5-year or 3-year term, and they win the first 5 spaces, then of course the next bid is going to be obviously a 2-year or a 1-year. So those are the only 2 terms that you're going to be able to apply for. And again, winning bids, you'll be obligated for your first term, your first payment term by March 1st of each of those years. So remember that if you are only bidding on 1 year, that very next year, you're going to have to resubmit all your paperwork, and you're going to have to participate in another bid process because those 1-year terms are now going to end up 3-year terms. So now the only thing that's going to be left is 5-year and 3-year and 2 years. What they want to happen is at some point after 3 or 4 years, all of them are going to be 3-year terms. And then it's going to be worked that way. So any questions with that so far? Yes. Yeah, he'll say starting bid is 25, and then he'll go from there, progress from there. Yeah, but again, remember, if you're bidding, if you go up and say, I want 3 years or want 2 years, remember, times that times 3 or times that by 2, that's what you're going to be obligated for. So you'll only pay a third of that for your first year and so on. Yes, Frank. No, we're gonna split those up as well. There's gonna be 2 3-year, 2 2-year, and 1 1-year. And then they're going to progress as well to end up all being all 3-year terms. But you'll still have those people that have a 2-year term. Yes. Let's read through this real quick. Minimum starting bid is $2,500. It'll be $5,000 for the outfitter spaces in the back. The term period for the out front is April 1st to December 31st. And for the outfitter spaces, it goes from April 1st through October. And we went over the 5 for the 2-year, 5 for the 3-year, and 5 for the 1-year. They're going to break it down, or the auctioneer is going to break it down as well at back to, since there's 5 spaces, they're going to be 2 for 3-year, 2 for 2-year, and 1 for 1 year. And again, successful bidders may pay their bid for each calendar year of the permit term, a prorated amount payment made before March 1st of each calendar year. So that means if you, yes. That space gets forfeited. Yeah, we haven't talked about a rebid. That hasn't been on the table yet, but that is possibly something that we might do if there's enough spaces that we might have another rebid sometime after that. No prepaid permit fees shall be no prepaid fees shall be refunded for any calendar year. That means if you pay for a calendar year, you pay for a term, and it's the only way to get the only way to get a refund for that would be a written notice within I believe it's 5 days before March 1st, before it actually is that end period. Now, if you're already in that year, that term, and you already paid, then then you lose that. Yes. Oh, okay, before March 1st, yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions with the bid process? Just remember, I am always available if anybody needs to ask questions about any of this process, about the permitting side, the applications, any of that stuff. Just remember that. So we're going on to the rest of the presentation, operator locations. It kind of really didn't change from last year. We got the outfitters in red in the back. We have the vendors, and I think Sig was asking about where they were going to go. The first 10 are out front of the building, right to the right of the door. And then the next 5 will be on that other side, facing the parking lot, Crescent Harbor parking lot. So that's where the vendors are. The load unload for the passengers is going to be the same. It's going to be in front of the building like it was. We'll also incorporate secateurs out there as well. And then you have your load unload for all the independent sales in the white, and that is the same as it was last year as well. This year, the only opportunity taxis are going to have is they're going to be able to drop off and pick up in a designated area. There's going to be no solicitation of taxi on Crescent Harbor or Centennial Hall. These permits are for the sales and for the outfitting of and for transportation of tour operators, or not for tour operators, but for the tours and stuff. So in yellow is an area there. I think it's about the same as it was last year. Is an area that you're going to be required to pick up and drop off. There's no idling. There's no parking for taxi cabs this year. Any questions? Continuing on. Sig, so this answers your question. There's the first 10 out front, and then there's going to be 11, 12, and the last 5 is on the other side of the building. That's how they're going to be auctioned off. Actually, one is. Same as last year, all the different spaces are identified by cuts in the slab. They haven't changed from last year. And then we also extended the next 5 on the other side of the building, just so that we give more opportunity for vendors to be able to occupy a space. This will be part of the packet. Yeah, this will be. Yeah. Yeah, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have this on the screen here, and we're just gonna go up there on that and just put a mark through it, say that that one's already taken, something like that. Load unload. As it reads in 6.19, the designated areas is where I deem as far as for independent sales, as far as for dropping off. Load unload is in that U. Load unload is in the Crescent Harbor parking lot, that J area. But as it reads in 6.19, you will still need a sticker, a load unload sticker anywhere in the parking lots, as well as Crescent Harbor, our tendering facility. Yes. Yes. You are in there as well. As long as you had a load unload sticker. Where'd they drop off last year? Behind Secateurs, they kind of blended in. Yeah, same. It's not going to change. Any other questions for load unload? Yes, sir. This is for any kind of tours, any kind of drop offs. Yeah. All right, moving on. We're going to go ahead and keep the 6 o'clock in the morning, just to make sure that it's less busy out there. 6 o'clock in the morning. Your square is your square. You can occupy it at any time you want after 6 o'clock, and you're going to need to remove the sign by 9 o'clock that evening. And just a reminder, we do have video surveillance around the whole building. If you guys see anything, and this is part of the whole taking care of each other, if you guys see anything, have any questions, have any concerns that we need to look at, just remember that we have video surveillance. We have cameras going on, and it's not to spy on you guys, but it's for those times where somebody trips and falls and hurts themselves. It's for those times where we need to kind of take a look back at something or another. But just remember that we have that kind of stuff installed on the building. So if you need something, just please come to the building. Myself, Jen, or anybody else on staff can help you with that. Plaza sale spaces, we kind of went over it already. There's 15 spaces. Each space is about 9.5 by 4.5 feet. Same rules apply as it was last year, 4.5 or 4 feet by 3 feet signs. And all spaces will be numbered. They will be numbered when we start the season. Yeah, and any questions? Same as last year, yes. One sign. If that's what 6.1, if that's what 6.19 says, the ordinance, that's what we're going to go by. We're going to go by the code. Yes. So as we've gone over earlier, as we talked about earlier, there is a designated area for you guys to drop off and pick up. And that is where you guys did it last year. As a taxi, yes, I will tell you that again.
No, as a tour vehicle.
If you have a loading and unloading permit,
No, if I have a vending permit.
yes.
Yes,
If you have a vending permit and that is filled out, and then you also are using your vans as tour vans, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Of course.
Okay.
Not all of them, except we can deny the use of bus by that's the bus for the tour. So we had to park on the southwest side of the buses away. Nobody.
So
Well, the red cab, you told my wife, were tour vehicles, you said our cab, taxi. Right? Yeah. If I get a vending permit, am I gonna be allowed on the first part?
sure.
Back to those. Tax directors are recognized tour operators underneath. Says right in, right. That's. There's no more.
Siglet, let's continue on with the presentation. If you have any other questions about this, we'd be happy to talk to you about this after the presentation. Okay. Continuing on, tour operator spaces. There's 5 spaces out back. Each space we're going to do the same thing as we did last year. So the requirements are 25 feet, no longer than 25 feet, and no taller than 9 feet. We went by those measurements just because as you're standing on the stage in the auditorium looking out, we were trying to keep it manageable as we can in order not to have to ask people to move their vehicles every time there's an event going on in the auditorium. So that's why how the 9-foot thing came into play. I thought it was reasonable last year. Everybody kind of went by that and we didn't have any problems. I don't think we even asked anybody to move last year for anything. So those are the same requirement or the same measurements that we had last year. Again, all spaces are going to be numbered. And trailers are not to exceed 9 feet high, like I was just talking about. Any questions about the outfitter spaces out back? Okay. Continuing on, operator rules. These are just mostly all common sense rules, how to treat each other. And most of you guys, all of you guys pretty much do this already. This is all written into the presentation as well, just as a reminder of what we're actually expecting here on Centennial Hall. Of course, the obvious one is we're going to strive to be ambassadors of the community with knowledge and with information that tourists can use, where the post office is, where the restrooms are, where the government buildings are, and stuff like that. I'll go ahead and let you guys read down these. Everything is pretty much a common sense kind of deal as far as how to treat each other, how to conduct business in your squares and stuff. I will add this to online if you guys would like, so that you guys can go through those as well. And something that we've always been good with each other as if you guys see any issues, any concerns out there, bring it to our attention. If you guys ever have any issues with anybody else, whether it be tourists or whether it be other vendors or whether it be bus or anything like that, please try not to handle it yourself. Come to me or my staff and we will look into it and try to remedy what we can of it. But please, what we don't want is a bunch of chaos out there with people arguing, and that in years past, we have had that before. So let's try to just come to us, come to the staff of Centennial Hall, and we'll try to remedy that for you. Continue on. Parking etiquette is kind of the same things that we talked about last year as well. Just remember though, when you're bringing in buses, you could I want to have a driver's meeting as well before the season, a little closer to the beginning of the season as well. We'll go over this with all the drivers and stuff as well. I talked to Caleb the other day, and he's going to be watching this as well. So we'll get in contact and get everybody into for that. But one of the things is that we want to just kind of make sure that all the buses, when they're coming in, they're sticking close to the curb. Sometimes it's hard because they're going around another bus. But if they can, just keep that in their mindset as far as traffic wise. I know that they try to do that, but it's always nice to have that in their mind as they're driving, just to make sure that that traffic that is going through, buses go side by side along that curb there. So we want to just make sure that there's no bottlenecks there. So try to pull forward as best you can all the way to the front. As we go to the next one, tabletop's going to be closed again this year. And I think that really helped out with the busing, with how many buses we can fit. And so the tabletop is in red, and basically the tabletop is the tabletop between Crescent Harbor parking lot and Centennial Hall parking lot. And it really helped out last year. I thought that we were able to bring the buses a lot more forward. We were able to fit, I think, 1 to 2 more buses on that left side there. And so it really worked out. And then plus it's a safety hazard too. When we have a lot of people walking back and forth, we have those blind spots in between the buses. So that tabletop, we're going to go ahead and close that up again this year during operations. Crescent curb, loading and unloading. Again, I go back to the whole point of, if you have issues, you see something, please bring it to the staff's attention. Every once in a while, we get people that don't know the rules, or they just, what we do get a lot is we get a lot of the parents dropping off their kids, and they'll park and they'll forget that they're parked there. Please bring it to our attention, and we'll remind them that that is a loading, unloading for independent sales and for tour operators. And we'll try to fix that as quickly as we can. But again, please try not to handle it yourself. I appreciate that you guys want to help us by handling it yourself, but bring it to our attention and we'll go ahead and take care of it for you. Again, from last year, we're going to bring it forward again this year, and that is a no idling kind of policy. And what that means is that we're going to continue on with, make sure to try to have all of your people ready on your tour when your bus comes in. What we don't want to see is buses parked. We don't want to see vans parked. We want to see buses sitting there as things are getting loaded. And I do understand every once in a while there's a tender that's late, or they're waiting for one person and the rest of it's, well, what that does is it puts a jam, especially if we have more vendors this year, more cars this year trying to load, unload. It puts a jam in that whole system with people just sitting there. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did last year, and we're going to go with the no idling policy. And basically it's make sure your people are ready, call your van in, load them up, get them out, and you will thank the person that is doing the same thing for you, guaranteed. Safety and double stacking, it happens. Just remember to please think of safety. Think of those blind spots. Think of people going across the street, looking on their phones and not really knowing where they're going. Make sure that you give enough space for traffic to still get by. And please don't try to jam somebody in between all of your vehicles so they can't get out. End of the day operations, that's at the end, that's lines, that's something that I'm gonna go over with Caleb again, as well. Is Caleb doing that as well? Who's gonna be doing that next year? Yourself. Communication is paramount for all of this. And I don't know if you saw last year how the line started to get kind of carried away and stuff. And yeah, and last year we did give you an opportunity to store barriers and stuff like that in an area where it's out of the way, so that you're able to pull that stuff out again. But communication is paramount between our staff and your staff. I'm hoping to have at least enough staff to be able to help monitor for you guys out front, not take over what you're doing, but just to help monitor of passengers and where they're going and where they need to go, and sending them off their way and that kind of thing. So if we can help you guys, let us know, and we'll try to do the best we can to help you guys. 'Cause this is going to be, especially this year, when we have days that we have 10,000 people in town, it's going to be paramount that we kind of work together. There's best coffee, we have the best free coffee in town. So come on and have a cup of coffee and let's talk about how we're going to tackle this monster, because I guarantee it's going to be a monster this year. Any other questions? Come on in, free coffee. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, taking time out of your day to participate in this. All the applications and the attachments will be online as well. Please remember, yes. It's on.
I'd just like to add that not only on the Harrigan site at www.cityofsitka.com, but it'll be on the front page of the website as well. There's a medallion that says forms. You can find any of these forms there, and there'll be a current news section too that has the information.
Awesome, thank you. Again, me and my staff will be available for questions. If you have any questions, concerns, please come talk to us. What I don't want is somebody to be angry or mad, but yet not have all the information. Please, if you need or have questions, please come and ask us. That's what we're here for. I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time out today, and thank you.